We've gone through policy, and we've talked about debt, and we've talked about policy decisions, and what we haven't talked about, I think, is us. Like me, for instance, I haven't gone down to Zuccotti Park, and why haven't I done that? Since, you know, I'm very, very sympathetic with a lot of ideas that are congruent with what is going on there in the broadest sense. Why haven't I been there? And I think there's something valuable to be learned from my answer, and the answer is really simple. There are a lot of excuses, but the answer is that I'm a hypocrite. And I would say tonight that you are all human beings, and you are sitting in this theater, is very likely that you are hypocrites as well. Because hypocrisy is actually, I would argue, one of the innate states of being a human being, is that we are hypocritical almost all the fucking time. And the time when we are not hypocritical is incredibly rare. The moments of our life where we're actually truly honest with another person are so fucking rare that when they happen, we usually end up married to that person. You know, you talk to people who've had a moment of sincere human contact, when they communicate with another person with such intensity. Generally, it's also nonverbal because it's so intense you actually mind meld in that moment. Many people can only count those a number of times in their life. It's so rare that we communicate at all. Look at us here tonight. You are sitting out there in the darkness. I'm up here on the stage. I'm talking to you. The odds of us communicating anything in the brief moments that are available to me are minuscule. The odds that you'll remember anything I have to say is minuscule. We're just hoping that some spark actually leaps across the gap, right? We're just hoping that something fucking happens tonight, so it's not just a worthless waste of all of our time. And I feel like everyone else has come has done an excellent job of kind of jerking off into the darkness and making a sincere attempt to actually, you know, leap across the gap. And so if I was going to say anything, you know, my attempt to do the same thing, to jump off the end of the diving board, I would challenge us to do the hardest thing, honestly, which is to confront and embrace the title you deserve, which is that we are hypocrites. We are sitting here in this theater. We are sitting here in this theater talking about a movement, but we are not actually moving. Why are we doing this? We are doing this for a variety of reasons, and I'm sure each and every person has a compelling set of reasons. I know I do. I could write a whole fucking essay about why it is I'm not protesting now. My show is up, and if I get too tired, if I get a cold at Zuccotti Park, I won't be able to perform so well. I'm sure I have a wide variety of legitimate reasons, and you do too. Some of you are supporting families. You're like, I've got to keep the economy going. I don't want to destroy the economy if I leave it. You know, everyone has their own set of things that they use. But what is important is to take back and embrace the idea that we're hypocrites. Because once you accept that we are all hypocrites, that we all have things that we aspire to but do not achieve, that we try to achieve these goals but cannot live up to them, it takes the power away from people that use hypocrisy as a club to keep people from fucking doing anything. Because it becomes increasingly difficult to actually do anything in the world, anything that has any kind of idealism, if you believe that because you have lived your life like a normal fucking person, which means every moment you are not actually sitting around shitting on and hating corporations every moment of your fucking life, because you actually lived a normal life through the arc of things, that it's possible to condemn you for what you've done by actually embracing the fact that we lie. We all lie. In fact, it's really hard for a human being to tell the truth ever. You know, it's very hard to say anything that's sincere. We have a lot of words for it. We say like, oh no, I'm just being polite. Or we say, oh no, I'm just using business language. I'm just using, you know, but that's not the truth. The real truth is that what's happening at Zuccotti Park, for instance, is an occupation. It's actually not even remotely fucking complicated. I think everyone that's talked about it tonight is doing a beautiful job of shining a light through it and how it reflects on the rest of our culture. That is complicated. But the actual event is not complicated at all. It's an occupation. A group has organized itself and is taking control of a public space and denying that space to other people, in this case denying it to corporate entities, because the corporate entities want it empty. They're denying it and they're holding it for the public, and then that's their act of defiance. And so it's an interesting lens to look at, like, what's happened, because what I find fascinating is the way the media shifts around the thing, like watching the endless discussion go back and forth. What do they want? Why don't they have demands? Why haven't they formed themselves into I wish they were a corporation, because then our news items would make more fucking sense. I mean, really what we're talking about in a lot of the coverage is a frustration. I think a lot of people feel this too. They're like don't know if they want to ally with it, because they're waiting for a set of bullet points. There's no fucking bullet points. It's an occupation. It's a military maneuver. I mean, that's the reason why when you go down there, it's organized. It's organized because people are building a structured thing to dig in, and every day that they are dug in is one more day that they win. Like, make no mistake, every day that they're there, they win. Every single day. And everyone else who is corporatized loses. It's very binary. It's very binary. And as good liberals, and I can tell you're all fucking good liberals. And seriously, we have a degree of that I admire of open-mindedness. You know, we're like, I don't know, the world's so complicated. We all can't know anything about anything ever. It's just really hard. And I'm sympathetic. I know I suffer from it myself, and it is a malady because it makes it hard for us to act. There are times in the world when action is called for. What is different about now? What is different about Occupy Wall Street at this moment? Nothing. Occupy Wall Street was possible 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It required people to wake up en masse, but there's nothing actually that changed. We just woke up to what we were actually doing. And that's what makes it extraordinary, is to realize that the changes that have happened, the changes that are occurring, where people are actually making change possible by simply occupying a space and holding on to it, that could have happened 5 years ago. That could have happened 10 years ago. It required, though, a shift in the metaphor. We had to actually see that people gave a shit. We had to see that people started paying attention, and that changed our perception of it. And that leads people like yourselves tonight. We're all in this room. We're sort of talking around and about it, and we're starting to actually engage with the possibility of a world where change is actually possible, which is very different than the world we were sold, despite the fact that that is the deepest hypocrisy, isn't it? Because globalism has come over these last 20, 30 years and has wreaked massive changes. Yet somehow we all believe change is impossible. Like, when you go back just a short time, the changes that happened with manufacturing in America, with how we've privatized everything, these changes happened quickly in the space of one generation. Massive change. Yet somehow we've all inculcated a belief that change is impossible, at least for us. Change only goes in one direction. It's the direction that someone else, something else wants. I'd also like to raise a couple of provocative ideas with you, because I think it's a valuable forum, I mean, we could get into feel warm and feel good, but I'd like to really raise some ideas with you, which is, out there in this room, many of you work for and with corporations. I think it's important to understand that you're complicit with a problem. And like anyone with a problem, where they're complicit with it, you can find help. You can start today to work toward a future where you are not doing this. Like, we all need to actually do this, to try to distance ourselves from corporations. Look for, how do we get the things we use? How do we provide for ourselves? It's not it's impossible, some would say. It's impossible to do completely. It doesn't matter if you do it completely, remember? Because you admitted you were a hypocrite already, right? Like, I work for corporations all the time. I'm performing, my things come from corporations, but I am doing everything I think I can, and I'm sure I'm not doing enough, because I'm a fucking hypocrite, to push those things further away. And each day we get up and we actually think through, all right, I'm sucking at that teat now, but I don't have to still be. What can I do? It's like a fucking rat in a cage. The cage will eventually give. We're very smart rats. Keep working at the fucking locks. And I'd also like to point out the power of the human. We often talk about it in positive terms, and I'm all for that. We talk about how all these human beings working together, we sort of unify ourselves and become very ennobled as we all work together. I'd also like to point out the very potent energy of shaming. That, truthfully, if you have friends, and I know you do, who work in corporations, if you have friends who are bankers, you need to shame those motherfuckers now. No, I'm serious. Like, you really need to. Like, you need to let them know that they can fuck themselves, and you need to freeze them out. And if they're your relatives, you especially need to freeze them out. Because when your family starts telling you to fuck yourself, people notice it. You should really think about it. I know some of you are related to bankers. You need to think about it. Because shame, social shame, is a human force. Cultures use it all the time to enforce change with themselves. You need to think about this. That you might have a personal responsibility to let people know that they aren't going to be talking to you anymore. And here's why. You need to tell people. Lines are going to be drawn. To some degree, this is a war, you know. It becomes a war over what humanity means in the face of massive corporatism. It's not all going to be pretty. It's not all going to be nice and friendly. You know, some of it's going to involve drawing lines in the sand and trying to eke out a more human existence. Some of it is going to get nasty. And so I'd like to point out tonight that it's wonderful that we came out here. It's wonderful that you came. Not in a cheesy, masturbatory, let's all be glad we came here kind of way. I mean, sincerely, it's good that we came together, that we talk about these things. But the truth, the fundamental truth of what's going on in Zuccotti Park, everyone here already knows. Everyone already knows in their hearts what an occupation is. Everyone knows that eventually, if it keeps going, and I hope to God it does, and I think it will, they're going to have to choose sides in a fundamental way. And I'd like to thank you for your time and attention, and I hope you make good choices. Thanks.
Mike Daisey.